There are moments in life when the universe whispers to you. You're torn between two paths, and a stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. You're thinking of an old memory, and a song from that time starts playing in a place you've never been before. You send an important message, and right then, a butterfly lands on your window. Coincidence? Carl Jung would say, no. That's synchronicity, a phenomenon where meaning overrides causality, where your mind and the outer world seem to beat in perfect unison. The problem is, the universe might be answering you, but you're too busy watching your crush's story. Part 1. Synchronicity, when the universe replies, but you're busy watching Instagram stories. Picture this, you're at your favorite cafe, mind adrift between deadlines and existential dread. Suddenly, the speaker plays a song, the one tied to an unforgettable moment, with the person you're trying to forget. You freeze. Was it random? Or a sign? Carl Jung called this synchronicity, the experience of events that are meaningfully connected, even if there's no direct cause linking them. No one sent you that song. No one arranged for that person to message you just as you were thinking of them. But somehow, it's as if the universe is trying to speak to you in its own secret language. We live in an era where everyone is online, yet few are truly present. We obsess over who viewed our story, but miss the story the universe is unfolding for us, through dreams, symbols, and eerie coincidences that make the hairs on your neck stand up. Jung wasn't a fortune teller or a mystic. He was a psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst, and perhaps most importantly, someone courageous enough to believe that not everything in life can, or should, be explained logically. When he first introduced synchronicity, he didn't expect you to believe. He simply hoped you'd reconsider. Think back to a time when you accidentally met the exact person you needed, heard the exact words that shifted your life's direction, or saw a symbol repeating during your most emotionally intense days. It may not have been chance. It might have been your consciousness syncing with a deeper layer of reality. Jung called it the connection between the individual mind and the soul of the world, the anima mundi. And here's the catch. Synchronicity doesn't require you to believe in mysticism. It only asks that you pause, look, and feel. But most of us don't pause. We swipe back to our ex's story. We open Instagram just to relax and lose ourselves in 1,000 faces and a million quotes that weren't meant for us. The universe doesn't stop sending signals, but you have to be quiet enough to hear them. Synchronicity isn't something to brag about on Facebook every time you see repeating numbers. It's an ancient language where meaning matters more than cause. And you know what? Jung once said, we often call what we can't understand random, but perhaps it's those very random things that guide the soul. So next time you're facing a life decision and someone casually mentions the exact thing you're wrestling with, don't ignore it. Don't get distracted by an old story or a ghosted DM, because maybe, just maybe, the universe is replying. Part 2. Strange coincidences or whispers from the unconscious. Carl Jung didn't invent the idea of synchronicity one fine Swiss afternoon. It came from deeply unsettling, and at times, outright eerie, personal experiences. 1913. Jung sees rivers of blood. In the fall of 1913, Jung began to dream of dark waves flooding Europe, swallowing cities and drowning thousands. He feared he was going insane. But a few months later, World War I broke out. That moment changed everything. Jung no longer saw himself as just a psychiatrist treating others. He turned inward, digging deep, and discovered the visions he saw weren't personal fantasies, but echoes from the deep soil shared by all humans, the collective unconscious. Then came the weird stuff. During a conversation with Freud, once his close colleague and later his great philosophical rival, Jung was discussing paranormal phenomena. Suddenly, he felt a strange pressure building in his body. Right then, a loud bang came from the bookshelf nearby. Freud jumped. Jung calmly said, "There will be another." And sure enough, a second bang. Freud was shaken. Jung was not. This wasn't superstition. This was a different principle, a realm where mind and matter interact without physical connection. Jung began to observe how life sometimes unfolds as if following a hidden script, one written not by logic, but by meaning. He called this synchronicity, a principle of connection based on meaning, not cause. We're trained to ask, why did this happen? What caused it? But Jung wanted us to ask something else. What does it mean for the journey of my soul? That's when synchronicity becomes a map, not drawn in ink, but in intuition, memory, emotion, and symbol. Jung didn't offer synchronicity as some vague New Age theory. He presented it as essential to healing and becoming whole, a process he called individuation. It's when you stop trying to explain and start trying to understand. Part 3. The universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in symbols, and sometimes bugs. Jung once said, symbols are the language of the soul. And one of the most famous stories proving this starts with a beetle. It happened during a therapy session. A young woman came to Jung. She was highly rational, the kind who'd ask, which SIM card does the universe use to text people? She was stuck in therapy. Everything Jung said felt too emotional, too abstract. Then one day, she mentioned dreaming of a golden scarab, the ancient Egyptian symbol of rebirth. And right then, tap tap, something knocked on the window. Jung walked over and opened it. A golden green beetle flew into the room. It was the closest match to the insect from her dream, and incredibly rare in that climate at that time. She was stunned. Her rational world cracked open. I can't deny this anymore, she whispered. And in that moment, a door inside her opened. Synchronicity doesn't come to make you believe. It comes to wake you up. It often appears when you're caught between the old and the new, between control and surrender. It doesn't arrive to prove a theorem. It arrives to show you a path. You could call it coincidence, but Jung would ask, why does it happen right when you're ready to change? In Jung's world, every symbol is a living signal from the unconscious, a missing puzzle piece your conscious mind forgot. A bird flies across the sky just as you decide to end a relationship. A book falls off the shelf, opening to the exact page about your life question. A random song plays just as you're begging the universe for an answer. Synchronicity isn't magic, it's a message. It's that moment when your inner world and the outer world click like cosmic gears. You're no longer living in a random universe. The universe is reflecting your soul, detail by detail. Jung called this unus mundus, one world, not inner and outer, but one unified current of meaning. The deeper, quieter, more awake you become, the more synchronicities appear, like the universe patting your shoulder and saying, you're on the right track, keep going. And if you haven't seen any signs yet, maybe it's because you're too busy checking someone else's story instead of listening to the one unfolding inside you. Part 4. Synchronicity. You can't control it. You can only be ready. We modern humans are excellent at setting goals, planning ahead, optimizing time, and generally trying to micromanage the universe. But synchronicity doesn't care about your Google Calendar. It doesn't show up because you did a 3-step manifestation ritual. It shows up when your soul is ready. Carl Jung discovered a strange paradox. The more we try to control life, the more blind we become to the signals of the universe. Synchronicity doesn't need logic to appear. It needs you to loosen your grip, listen deeply, and live honestly. Most importantly, it needs you to have the courage to face yourself. Because synchronicity only visits when the ego shuts up. Your ego wants to understand, explain, control. But synchronicity comes from a place beyond the ego's Wi-Fi range. It comes from the self, that deeper center within you that knows, even before you think. And Jung made it very clear. The self is not something you control. It is the true navigator of your personal journey, and it speaks in symbols, in intuition, in synchronicity. So, how do you meet synchronicity? You can't catch synchronicity like catching Pokemon, but you can create the conditions for it to appear. Be present, slow down, feel your real feelings. Keep a journal. Synchronicity leaves breadcrumbs. Writing them down helps you see the pattern. Do inner work. Face your shadow, explore your archetypes, and watch the universe start connecting dots you didn't even know were there. And if there's one law to synchronicity, maybe it's this: it shows up when you're standing at a crossroads between pain and growth. Jung once said, synchronicity is a sign that you're living not just from your ego, but from your soul. You don't have to chase anything magical. Just become yourself, deeply, honestly. And perhaps the universe will whisper, I'm here, walking with you. Part 5. Synchronicity. When you stop searching and start seeing. You can't chase synchronicity like some mystical Easter egg hunt. The harder you try to summon it, the quieter it gets. Because synchronicity isn't a reward for being clever, it's the fruit of inner growth. When you start living truthfully, when you stop running from yourself, stop pretending you're okay, stop acting like you've figured it all out, when you allow your heart to hurt and still stay with it without panicking, that's when synchronicity shows up. Not like a Hollywood miracle, more like an old friend nodding at you from across the room. Yep, you're ready now. Jung, as a psychoanalyst and someone who walked through the darkest nights of the soul, saw it clearly. Synchronicity is living proof that we don't live in a random, meaningless universe. We live in a universe with soul, and that soul is whispering to each of us. This is where science and intuition shake hands, where philosophy, symbolism, depth psychology, and spirituality all go quiet, and let the deeper voice within you speak. And if you asked me, as someone who studies Jung's philosophy, what the deepest meaning of synchronicity is, I wouldn't say it's a sign from the universe or evidence of the mystical. I would say synchronicity is a reminder that you are not alone, that no matter how lost you feel, there is an underground stream connecting you to something more sacred, more real, and more you than you've ever imagined. And once you learn to listen, you begin to live differently. You stop demanding answers. You start sitting quietly and let the right things come to you. You begin to realize you're not just living in the world is living in you. You don't need to wait for the universe to send a sign. You are the sign the universe sent to find yourself. Have you ever experienced synchronicity? A strange dream? A meaningful coincidence? A symbol that keeps showing up in your life? Share your story in the comments. Because who knows? Your experience might be the signal someone out there is waiting for. And if this video reached you at just the right time, well, you already know, it probably wasn't a coincidence. Subscribe to Light Through Shadows if you'd like to explore more on depth psychology, the unconscious, the darkness, and the light within you. We'll keep going on this journey to find light through the most beautiful shadows of the soul.